Smartphone source code. A Reuters report claimed that the Indian government was considering requiring smartphone manufacturers to share their source code with third-party testing agencies and inform authorities before major software updates. However, the Union government has downplayed this discussion and denied any proposal to demand disclosure of source code. About source code. Source code is the foundational set of instructions and digital assets that power a software system. In simpler terms, the source code is highly confidential data that controls the device, memory, processor, sensors, and hardware features. While parts of platforms like Android are open source, manufacturers make extensive proprietary modifications that they closely guard. Source code is protected not only for commercial reasons but also for security, as exposing a system's inner workings could allow malicious actors to identify vulnerabilities, leading to data breaches and cyber attacks. Why source code disclosure is highly unusual. Disclosing source code outside a company is extremely rare and usually limited to sensitive sectors like defense, and even then only in select countries. For instance, Apple Inc. has not shared its source code with the Chinese government despite adopting country-specific policies to comply with local data access laws. This underscores how exceptional and sensitive such a demand would be. Recent context heightening the controversy. The report surfaced soon after the Department of Telecommunications faced widespread political and public backlash over its directive to smartphone makers to pre-install the Sanchar Sathi app. Critics feared app could enable surveillance or pose security risks, and global smartphone manufacturers typically resist such pre-installation demands. Security and commercial risk of source code exposure. Requiring source code disclosure would be far more intrusive than pre-installing an app, as it would expose a company's entire proprietary codebase to third parties. Cyber attackers usually exploit vulnerability visible from the outside. Internal visibility would significantly amplify risk, especially if documentation reveals system architecture. Even phones running Android do not expose all implementation details precisely to safeguard security and intellectual property. Government position on public disclosure of source code. The Indian government has not officially stated that smartphone source code must be made public. However, discussions stem from a 2023 document finalized by the National Center for Communication Security under the Department of Telecommunications, which issued an Indian Telecom Security Assurance requirement for consumer equipment, regulatory background and system oversight. Indian Telecom Security Assurance requirement form part of the mandatory testing and certification of telecommunication equipment framework rooted in the Indian Telegraph Amendment Rule 2017. However, after the Telecommunication Act 2023, the government decided to drop MTCTE requirements for smartphones since they already undergo certification by Bureau of Indian Standards. Oversight subsequently shifted to the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which stated it is keeping an open mind on the issue. Industry and government responses. Industry body India Cellular and Electronics Association has downplayed the seriousness of the discussion. Government representatives have also maintained that no final regulations have been framed, suggesting that deliberations are still exploratory. The Internet Freedom Foundation has challenged these assurances, arguing that ITSAR documents remain publicly available and that stakeholder meetings lack transparency. IFF has demanded disclosure of meeting minutes and called for open public consultation, asserting that meaningful policy making cannot be confined to closed-door discussion with major technology firms. The group has reiterated the need for transparency and inclusive consultation in matters that could significantly affect digital rights, security, and consumer trust.